Hello, hello. Welcome to the final session of today's boot camp. My name is Danielle Peyton. I'm the head of people here at the Game Hairs, and I'm joined with Jean Marie Richardson, CEO of Ifolio.
Hey
Um,
guys.
we have a really exciting session planned for this time. I'm going to take the first half, then pass it to Jean Marie in just a second. And as always, please put your questions in the chat so we can get to those at the end. So a little bit about me. That is me from a wedding after COVID. I got to see people in real life and have a glass of champagne. I'm from Arizona, lived in DC, lived in Connecticut, and now I'm in Virginia. I went to Arizona State University and Purdue University. I am married. You'll see there that my husband is Jewish, so I'm in an interracial and interfaith marriage. We had an awesome rabbi and a priest at our wedding. It was really fun, and he got to break the glass. And he did a good job. It broke, so all good things. I have two amazing, crazy Boston Terrier puppies. Their Instagram is way more like built out than my Instagram. So if you want to follow someone, I would suggest following them. They're hilarious.
I love it.
love
I followed it
yoga.
yesterday.
Thank you. I love yoga. I love cheese and I love boba tea. I am a huge Nintendo gamer. Mario Kart was like the first game that I was addicted to. And back in the day, I would have to go to Blockbuster and rent the game for the weekend. And then me and my brother would play all weekend and then return the game because that was technology in the
That
90s.
was how we did it though. That was,
Exactly.
it was a big event too. Like,
Right.
get to go on the Blockbuster trip.
Right. And then there was like pizza. It was a whole thing. And so now I'm still playing Nintendo and I'm in love with Animal Crossing. And there I am making a wish with the shooting stars because that's just super fun. So that's a little bit about me. Jean Marie's going to share all about herself in a little bit. But I also want to give some background about like what are we doing during this time? We're going to be talking about getting a job, succeeding at work, pivoting your career, negotiating salaries. That's our whole time for today. And so a background about like why I am talking about this today is because I pivoted like hardcore. In 2008, I graduated with my bachelor's in elementary education, and I was actually a fourth grade teacher for a little bit. Not that long, unfortunately. I was laid off after a year because it was the terrible economy of the 2000s, and all the first year teachers in my district actually got laid off. So I was laid off. I moved to DC. I started working in education reform and I worked in the nonprofit space for quite a bit. In 2015, I switched to HR and DEI or DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. In 2018, I got my master's in instructional design, and I had the thought, like, I'm going to train teachers because I think teaching is really important. I like teachers, and I like teaching. So I was like, I'm going to teach adults. That was the idea. But then I was actually working for a company and they were like, you're really good at operations. You're good at HR. Why don't you do HR? So I was doing HR. I got a huge job of being the director of HR and I love it. That's what I do for the Game Hairs. And even though I go to very stuffy SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management conferences, it's actually a really fun position. I highly recommend. In 2020, the world closed down. We were in a pandemic. I was unhappy at work and my mom was really sick. It was a huge kind of perspective change in my life. And I took a pause. I quit my job. I thought, what am I doing? I am unhappy. What should I do next? And then I was hired at the Game Hairs in 2021. And I realized I really like startups and that's where I thrive. And maybe this is where I should be, like a startup kind of space. So that is why I'm here talking about pivoting and negotiating salaries. So for those of you who are getting a job, whether you're first time getting a job right out of college or you have a job and you're getting a new job, I just have some tips. Use LinkedIn and Twitter to find jobs. I think we've been hearing that all throughout Bootcamp, that Twitter and LinkedIn are really great resources. Use your connections and ask for an introduction. I have done this. I have asked people I haven't talked to in a few years, I see someone on LinkedIn. Can you give me an introduction? People are nice. They will give you an introduction. And then to that point, networking really does work. I got this job at the Game Hairs through networking. Someone I knew back in my nonprofit space is working at the Game Hairs, asked me to come along because I was great at my job in HR. And here I am at the Game Hairs in the gaming space, really loving it. And then the last tip I will give, just because I have been a recruiter, cold calling recruiters, I have not seen that work. So I'm sure, someone in your life is saying, oh, just literally like call a recruiter on the phone. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. We get lots of phone calls and we're busy and it's kind of a turnoff, especially when we have a whole application process. Just remember, there are hundreds of people applying for the same job, and if you get rejected, don't take it personally. I have been rejected from hundreds of jobs. When the economy was terrible, I was applying to 10 jobs a day. That was my goal. And I only got one job. So imagine how many times I was rejected in that time. It's not personal, it's business. And recruiters, that is their job to unfortunately reject people. And it doesn't mean anything about you as a person. In terms of resume building, I just want to give a few tips here. Don't lie on your resume ever. I don't know if anyone is telling you to do that, but don't do that. But do sell yourself. When you're applying for a job in a field or an industry that's maybe new, don't add things that don't fit the where you're applying to. So when I was applying in education jobs, I would highlight all of my teaching and education experience. But then when I was moving into a for-profit sector, I took out actually the education stuff because they're not so interested in me being a teacher or being a tutor or all the experience I have with students, ages 5 to 15. I'm more focused on my experience managing people, being organized, being detail oriented. So I shifted my resume to fit the role I was going for. Definitely add volunteer roles. As a recruiter, I love to see that people are involved in their community. So if you are involved in your community or something you really love, I love to see that passion on resumes. The second bullet, tailor your resume. Just went through that one. Ask someone to proofread. As a recruiter going through hundreds of resumes, when I see lots of misspellings, I get very concerned. So ask someone to proofread your resume. Try to keep it to one page and limit the unnecessary white space. When you're applying for like a design job, I completely understand wanting to make your resume look like beautiful with colors and a giant border at the top, but it just kind of shifts all the words down, makes it 2 pages. And recruiters really are going through hundreds or thousands of resumes. So you want yours to just pop with all the information right at the top and then kind of suck someone like me in, like, oh, you do that. Oh, you do that. And then you kind of like keep them reading through your resume. So this kind of remember side is also for me as a human because writing a resume is truly soul sucking and it makes you feel like you don't know anything. So remember, you do know things. You're awesome. Try to push that imposter syndrome push it to the side. You know things. You're great. You're awesome. Don't write yourself off. The job description has all of like the hopes and dreams of the employer, and they're a reasonable person. They know they're not going to get everything on the list. So if you think you match most of them or even just a few, apply. You're not behind in your career. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many degrees you have. You're not behind. You're just doing your career and you do you. Resumes are hard. They just are, and you got this. And finally, some tips for interviewing. Because let's say you've made it past the resume gauntlet. You're now in front of someone. I highly recommend researching the company before your interview. Being able to explain how you can connect to their mission or vision, or you just know who they are or what you can bring to them is really important. So just know kind of like who they are and what they do in the industry they're in. Have some examples ready of times you were successful and unsuccessful. That is a very common interview question, and it can like catch you off guard. So be prepared with a story where you killed it and then another story where you didn't kill it, but what you learned from that experience. That's the way to kind of spin it. So it's not just like, oh, I messed up, but no, I messed up and I learned something. That really helps. When you're interviewing, have a positive attitude, smile, come prepared with questions. It's always nice as a recruiter to talk to someone who is interested in the job, interested in the role, and has questions for you, likely because they're prepared and they research the company. Speak up if you are confused. If the question is confusing, ask them to restate it. That is not illegal. And then send a thank you note. I actually don't get as many thank you notes as you might imagine. And the people who do send thank you notes, they really do stand out. So send a thank you note. During your interview, remember, it's okay to make mistakes. You may forget all the acronyms in your industry. That's okay. But just breathe, take a moment. And a little like secret tip I have is always have a cup of water nearby. So let's say someone asks you a question that's kind of sticky. Just take a sip of water and give yourself a second. That is okay. You can think, you can breathe. It's not a race. It is just an interview. And then finally, my tips for negotiating salary. We're going to get into this a little bit later, but some tips right off the bat. In many states, it's illegal to ask what you're currently earning. So research the laws in your state. Plays the ways that companies are kind of getting around that is they're asking what your salary expectation is, and that's very different than what you make currently. So you could be making, let's say, you're a teacher, because that's my background. You're a teacher and you're making 35,000, but your salary expectation because you moved to another state is maybe 60,000. So I would put what your salary expectation is, like be honest. Um, no matter what, I recommend don't accept the offer right away when you're offered the job. Um, just take a moment, say thank you, say you're excited and that you want to think, and you'll get back to them. Because you deserve time to think about, like, is this the right move for my career? Is this all the money I need? Are the benefits what I need? All of that. And finally, you can also negotiate a starting bonus, more vacation, a higher 401k match, and other benefits. Sometimes when you're negotiating salary, the salary is can't be negotiated, but you can also ask for these other things. I have negotiated more vacation in roles before. That is a benefit that you can get when you're starting a new job. Remember, it's okay to ask for more money. If you don't ask, you'll never know. And I have never in my career heard of someone asking for more money and then someone saying no, and now you don't get the job. So just ask for more money, be nice about it. Jean Marie will actually go into in a little bit time she's asked it and some tips around that. And I just have a couple more slides before Jean Marie takes over. And I just like to always, when I'm giving talks about, finding a job, I also like to talk about what happens when you get the job. Um, and it's so important, like especially early in your career, to build connections with the people you've just met and then the company you're working for. So you got the job, ask questions, learn more, find a mentor, and be nice to everyone. I have a story of I was in an elevator at a new job. It was a very big company, like 1,000 people. And I was randomly in the elevator with someone and I asked, oh, do you work here? And he said, yes. And I said, then we just were chit chatting. And then eventually I asked him, oh, so what do you do? And he was the CEO. That was embarrassing. Also, it was strange. I had no idea who the CEO was. But my advice is be nice to everyone because you don't know who you're in the elevator with. It could be the CEO. Um, and then also when you're in the new job, you should be thinking about your next steps. Maybe you want to be in this job for 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years. I'm not saying you have to know right away, but know what you're hoping to get from this job and where you want to move forward. So, in that position, I was working in events. I knew that I didn't want to be in events forever, but I was hoping to get some like organizational experience, some experience like leading a team, experience managing people. So I knew that that was kind of why I was there. And it was a stepping stone to another job. And then finally, it's okay to ask yourself, is this job or career what I thought it would be? Um, Being a teacher was what I thought it would be, but I also realize now that that wasn't really for me, and that's okay. You have one life, like find the job that gives you joy and do that. Some final random tips. You don't have to listen to what everyone says about everything. Some people just don't know. There was a session earlier about NFTs. Some people just don't know what they're talking about. So you don't have to listen to everyone. Um, for for a person that's maybe in their very first job or really just any job, just be aware of the reply all and double check the from and to. Like, don't be the person that sends like their social security number to the whole office. You know, that's kind of embarrassing. um, Please know that your job is monitoring everything you do on your computer. I just recommend having that kind of foundation. They're definitely monitoring your email. They can access your Slack at any time. They can see what applications you're opening and clicking. If you don't want them to see you're doing it, then just don't do it on your work computer. Take a deep breath before sending that angry message. I have often been the person that a colleague will go to read an angry email, and I'm happy to do that. Someone is happy to proofread read your emails. So find that person and have them proofread your emails or your angry message before you click send. And then it's okay if your first job is not a good fit. It's just a job, and there's tons of them. You can find another one. And finally, careers are long, take time to build and nurture relationships. Like I said before, it was because of a relationship I had with Verta Maloney, who was a founder at the Game Hers. She came to my wedding. She's a dear friend. Because of her, I'm working here and I'm loving it. So take time and build relationships with the amazing people you've met. Have an open mind about your career. I never expected I would be in the gaming space, but this is really where I belong and I'm loving it. So, because I had an open mind, I wasn't set on, oh, I have to stay in education or I have to stay in a classroom. I've been able to grow as a person, as a professional, and have a really thriving, fun career. And then finally, just keep learning. It's really important that you take advantage of any free trainings, any way to level up your skills, because there's always something to learn. And it's through those experiences that you get to meet new people. And I'm going to turn it over to Jean.
Hey guys, so super excited to be with you. I am so honored to be here with you guys on the closing session of today on Saturday. So thanks for having me. My name is Jean Marie Richardson, and I'm a huge fan of the Game Hers. And Danielle, excited to be here with you. So a little bit about me. I'm a native Georgian. I'm a Georgia Tech alumna, which I have found is not always very popular, but I love my school. It's funny, I walk my dog around my neighborhood, and there's a whole lot of Bulldogs and University of Alabama fans that live in my neighborhood, but not a whole lot of Georgia Tech people. So my school is very near and dear to my heart, but part of going to Georgia Tech was a very interesting culture. College was very, very difficult, and they did not teach us one of the most important things that Danielle just said, which was how important relationships are. Relationships power the world, and I think relationships can be so helpful both when you're getting a job. Anytime I have gotten a job, it hasn't been just from applying online. It's also been from somebody I knew that put in a word for me at that position. And that even goes forward to how relationships can help you when you're negotiating the salary. At Georgia Tech, there's a lot of focus on your critical thinking skills, your problem solving skills, and I wish there had been more focus on how important relationships were. Anyway, long story short, I took 5 years to graduate from college instead of 4. And I look back and I wonder how my life would have been different if I had graduated in 4 years, because that was the year before 9/11. And the reason this changed things was, just like COVID has just impacted our world, 9/11 turned the entire world on its heels, and the entire job market froze up. I believe that my journey has led me to right where I'm supposed to be today, 20 years later. And you guys are probably like, oh my God, 20 years. But it's a lot of experience. And hopefully you can learn from some of the things that I've learned in the process. But for me, when I was getting out of college, I remember a lot of my friends were going back to graduate school instead of going into the workforce. Mm-hmm. I remember working so hard to land a job, and that job was $10,000 less than my engineering friends were getting. And then I did what is wildly crazy. I left, or decided not to start that job. I took another job for $5,000 less than that. What? The reason I did that was I had my heart set on working at Delta Airlines. I wanted to travel the world. And I had researched and found out that when you worked at Delta, you got flight benefits. And it was actually you, your companion, and your parents could fly standby anywhere that Delta flew. And so they were on a hiring freeze. And because of a relationship, I was able to get a lunch with an executive. And I told him, I said, I've been so excited about Delta Airlines. I've always wanted to work here. And he basically said, look, I don't have any openings, but if you're willing to take on our lowest performing market, no one wants to handle this market. There were 7 measures of profit at that time. He said, it is tanking in all 7 measures. If you want to take on this, we can make a job for you. So first of all, I recommend to anyone, if you ever are in a situation like that, the first thing you should do is say, let me think about it. Let me get back to you. I jumped all in. I was like, I'm there. And it was very, very hard work. I would go into the office. I would get there at 6 a.m. Most people weren't getting there till 9 a.m. I had to work very, very hard to tweak this market. But I will say I'm so proud that by the time that I left Delta and went into technology, which is where I am, I had tweaked that market to measure a profit in all 7 areas. And I'm super proud of that. And I think those are some things that it's important to remember in your job experiences is how do you contribute? How do you move the needle? How do you get experiences that both help drive that company's growth, but it also help your own growth? And so anyway, fast forward, and I think we could probably go to the next slide a little bit on the journey. Yeah, we've got the 9/11, goes into hiring freeze. I graduated from Georgia Tech, went to Delta. I went into technology and was recruited over to Siebel Systems, the customer strategy team. It's an awesome team. I learned so much about customer strategy and very exciting. I had been there a year. All of a sudden, Siebel was acquired by Oracle. It's very interesting to live through an acquisition process. And if any of you have lived through an acquisition process, it is very much a roller coaster. If you haven't, it's very likely that you will one day because there's a lot of acquisitions in the world. There's a lot of consolidation and growth in different industries. In my case, Oracle acquired Siebel. The customer strategy team that we had competed and went head to head with the customer strategy team that they had, and their team won. So they eliminated my team, and we all had to either leave and find other jobs or find a place to land at Oracle. So I can remember at that point something that was truly an important negotiation in my own life, and that was landing a job in product management when I did not have a computer science degree. And I remember the discussion at that point. I wasn't really negotiating to get a higher salary. I was negotiating why my experiences, my perspective, the skill set that I brought to the table was better and more unique for an innovative outlook than just someone who had a computer science degree, which I did not have. So that was a super tough competition. I landed the job, and it was a very, very exciting process. And at that time, they then had me shadow sales reps to learn how to help make their technology better for sales reps. And it was a lot of hard work. It was basically 3 or 4 jobs in one. And if you're ever in the place in your career where you start to be given more work than you expected, you have a choice. You can either lean into that and accept all of the great experience that you're going to learn, or you can say, hey, look, I need more resources. Anyway, let's flash forward to a little further along. So basically, I leaned in, we developed a new product, then I heard a whole lot of no's. No's will be part of what you'll learn in your career. No's can be opportunities. So make a plan and then adjust your plan and lean into the opportunities that come when something doesn't go as planned. So I was able to spearhead an acquisition of another company to build the product I had designed. Then in the process, I led the integration. I worked to secure new customers, and there was $6 million in sales, 180 converted customers. I lost all the eyelashes on my right eyelid. I was working really hard, but one of the best experiences on my resume that I ever had. But it was hard work. And it was announced on stage at Oracle Open World by Larry Ellison, which was very, very rewarding. Flash forward, I was recruited from there to Microsoft. And Microsoft required me to move across the country, and that was an interesting process. Microsoft was also a very, very successful salary negotiation for me because I was at a place where I was already doing well. I had gotten a lot of notoriety. That was how they heard about me, and they really wanted me to come over. So it's always interesting, I think, to take stock of your own skill set, your own experiences, and then how bad does that company want you that is recruiting you on board. That might give you some leverage in a negotiation. while I was at Oracle, right before I went over to Microsoft, that's when I started working on this idea that ends up becoming the company that is Ifolio today. And the whole idea was, what if there was a better, easier way to do digital marketing? And I worked on that idea, did research, and worked on it on the side for 5 years before I went all in. And today, so this month is our 6-year birthday at Ifolio, and it's so interesting for me because it's 6 years to the rest of the team. To me, it feels like 11 years because I started it 5 years before I went all in with it. But I will say that the entire journey has been incredibly rewarding. I will also say that what I've learned along the way, salary is absolutely important, and learning to negotiate salary is important. But also, who you work with and what you'll be working on is important. And what type of results will you be able to deliver to the world? So if you think about your portfolio of experience thinking forward, think about not only will you be getting paid to do something, but what will you be able to say that you are able to deliver to the world a year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years into that position with the company. So that wraps up kind of my journey to where I am with Ifolio today. I'm really proud that we started in my basement on my savings. I bootstrapped the company to start with. And today we have grown. We have an office. I'm in the office today. We are in the Salesforce Tower. We serve 5,000 different clients, which is amazing. We have an awesome team. We've grown a lot, and there's been a lot of amazing success. We have 2 patents. But every day, at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for my team that I work with. And I think it's really important to remember that salary is incredibly important, but it's also important what you're doing and who you're around. So, I had some slides in here that were a little bit about what Ifolio is. I know this is about salary discussion. Let's just go through them really quickly. If you want to check it out, please do. Ifolio.cloud/home. And the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
I want to have time to get to some of the other questions, but just a little bit of background of, so what is Ifolio? We're a digital marketing platform. What's really neat is we're designed for B2B, and we serve enterprises. And so I'm proud that during COVID, we powered 300 million seconds of engagement for the clients that we serve. And the reason I think that's important is there's a lot of companies that are in marketing that say, oh, we powered 3 zillion very sends. But if the emails weren't opened, what is that? So I'm proud to say the second of engagement is a very pure measure of digital marketing. And so we've done that. What I'm also excited about this year that's coming up is this year, for the first time ever, Ifolio will be available in what we call singles, and it will be available to single users. And we haven't had that before. And so that's something that I work really hard on. I'm anxious about. That's something that is coming down the pipe that I believe I'll look back on and be super exciting and very proud of. But I also think it'll be something that will be helpful, like to those who are in their own professional career search. They'll be able to get their own Ifolio and add a link to their resume of a digital portfolio. So that pretty much wraps up my story. I think we can probably...
Should we go into questions?
Yeah, we can click on to the questions.
Great. So I'm just going to stop us so we can be full screen. So this was the time that I had planned to kind of interview Jean Marie and ask her experience and perspective. Because Jean Marie is a business owner, she also has had an amazing career. So my first question, as a hiring manager / business owner, what advice would you give to someone wanting to make a career change?
Yeah, no, I think right now there's a lot of people are making changes in general. So what I would suggest is take stock of the experience you already have, take stock of what you've learned about yourself that are your strengths, and find ways that you can leverage your strengths and your skill sets, even if you make a change. So for instance, if I look back on my career path, customer strategy to product management to business development, each way, each step, I leveraged my own strengths, my own skill set of critical thinking skills. I love the product. I love to make a business case. And I leverage those skills to bring a strength to the new position. So it's definitely be thoughtful about the new position and be thoughtful about your own skill set and how you can apply that.
How have you approached negotiating your salary when you're making a career change or a move?
Yeah. So obviously, you guys heard sort of what some might say is a massive fail where I had a salary, it was lower than my peers, and then I went and created a job for even lower salary. So that's one way that could be like the way not to do it. And yet I look back and when I draw a map of the world, I've been all over the world, guys. Like I have been to places I never would have visited without. It has been I've been to Africa, I've been to South America, I've been to the Caribbean, I've been to Europe like 20 times. I mean, and that's because I had those flight benefits. So there's when I look on that as the bank of life journey dollars, and that's part of something you need to consider in your salary. Now, there's other times where the actual dollars are really important. So I think of the experience I had at Microsoft and at Oracle, and in both of those cases, I did a whole lot of research. Now that's just my way of tackling a problem is to get a whole lot of information. So I would do research, find what you can online so that you can look at pay scale salaries online, and you can find really large companies will have what they call these buckets, and there'll be a range based on the type of job it is. And you'll see product management jobs will have one type of range. And what usually is the case is the ends of the range are based on how much experience you have. It might even be your location, might be if they're competing for you or whatnot. One thing I would suggest is don't let what you see online completely jade you, because sometimes not everyone is putting their salary online. The information you find might be good information, but it might not be complete. So just know that. Also know that what the big companies pay for a certain type of position may be very different than what the small companies can pay. And yet the value that you get working at a small company may be really, really exciting for you. So I think my advice would be do a lot of research ahead of time and then understand your own value coming in. Another advice I would make, and this is coming from being a business owner myself, don't assume that they're going to lowball you. I think there's a natural inclination as humans. We just assume whatever they're offering us, they're going to lowball me, and they're really driving in to see if I'm going to negotiate. Don't assume that, especially from a smaller business. It may very well be that they're giving you their best offer. I, as a business owner, have made my best offer possible. Someone came back and asked for more, and I wasn't able to move on it. And I have to be upfront with them. I will say, in that experience, try to make it as professional as possible, and then make up your mind before you negotiate. Are you okay with the outcome if it makes it uncomfortable that you pushed for that? So, for instance, there was one time where I negotiated really hard. I got what I wanted. Come to find out, my salary was higher than the person who was my boss, and it made it incredibly uncomfortable. And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't live in a world, but that's reality. We're human. And that position did not last very long for me. I wasn't in a great situation there. But anyhow, just I think knowing that, having information, understanding what the ends of the spectrum are on the potential scale, and then assume positively, and then figure out if you can ask someone, if you have a relationship there, is there wiggle room on this? Are there things I can ask for? Those will really help you get the best outcome possible. And there may be times where a salary is going to make it or break it for you. And if it is going to make it or break it, go ahead and have something else lined up so that, if the decision is, if I don't get X number, this is not going to be right for me, then be willing to roll to that next option.
That's such good advice about researching. I have a story where I lowballed myself because I didn't realize what the range was. And so I gave a price, not a price. I'm not for sale. I'm sorry. I gave a range. I gave a range that was way lower than actually everyone else. I just didn't realize that. But if I had been able to do research, I could have. I truly just lowball. I found out that I was making like $10,000 less than everyone else, and I just like, oh, that's uncomfortable,
Well, I've been there clearly.
Yeah. So definitely do the research. And then also I just want to add, I think I saw on Twitter, like, oh, it's illegal to ask people what they make. It's not illegal to ask your coworker how much money they make. And if an employer says you cannot ask, it's actually illegal for them to do that. I just want to set the record straight. If we didn't talk about it, we wouldn't know about the discrepancies in salary. So it's okay to ask. They may not tell you, but you can ask.
Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat. When is the right moment to move from one job to another? Jean Marie, how did you know when it was time to move?
Well, so I've had 20 years of experience. And those 20 years, the ones that I talk about the most are the really successful ones. But as I look over my career, I have been promoted, I have been laid off, and I've been terminated. All three of those. So all ends of the spectrum. So, leaving a company, especially for me, business is my jam. So I put probably way more into it than a lot of people do. But when you start to invest your heart and your soul and your every waking minute in a business, it becomes really, really important to you. So I think it's the right time to leave. You need to measure a couple things. The couple things are, are you still excited about the vision for this company and where it's going? And can you see a place where you are helping to drive growth for that company? If I was ever at a place where I couldn't see a path for me to help be a part of the growth engine of the company, that would be when I would start to lose interest. But then another thing to take stock of, so this is interesting. This was a time when a job was eliminated. Watch the market. What if you're working on a project that you love, you think is the best project ever, and it's veering from the direction of the market? The market's going into a recession. Mm-hmm. Guess what? You might be surprised. That was one of the examples where my job was eliminated because market went into a recession. This was kind of a fun project, but it wasn't on the cutting edge of revenue generation. So they just laid off an entire team. It was a team of 300. So those are things I would keep in front of you and help drive your decision about when to leave.
You started talking about this a little bit before, but what would you tell someone to do if the hiring manager is unable to meet their salary needs?
Yeah. So I think take stock, and I think it's really important to sort of, for me, part of my process is writing down. So I have a little notepad, which is kind of funny, and I take notes, but write down for yourself the values that you would get as part of that job in addition to the money before you walk away. Because some of the things that might not be as obvious could be, who will you get to work with? Will you get to work alongside folks who are movers and shakers? And would you potentially get to be a part of things like, I love being a part of big deals. I love being a part of building product. And so would I get to work directly with developers and have my own dev team? That to me is like it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Not to everyone, I'm sure, but take stock of the types of experience that you would gain, mm-hmm. and also the types of skills that you would acquire, and value all of that, because guys, so much more than money matters. And I'm someone who, came out of a school that really drummed into us that, oh, the reason you're going to go through all of what was so hard at this school is because you're going to graduate and have salaries top of the market. And right. I've just learned a lot along the way. Money is important, and a salary is important, but make sure you understand all of the values that will go in, even the people that you'll be around. Understand the culture. The culture, I have been at companies where the culture was like sucking air out of a room. And then at my company, I mean, I can't wait to see the team. So
I love that. I love that answer because I feel like through COVID, through the pandemic, we realized that it isn't just about money. Because you saw the Great Resignation is happening, or is it's almost, I don't know what stage we are in it now, but it's just it's salary, but it's also, like you said, the team, the culture. Is it a culture that where you can bring your whole self? Is it a culture that is flexible for your family and your family's needs? Like you said, maybe there's professional development opportunities there. So it isn't just the salary. There's all these intangible benefits. Do you have to commute to work? I mean, that's a huge one, I think, for all of us.
The snacks are really big for me, Danielle. I'll just we have really cool snacks.
Snacks are, my husband's job has Jenny's in the fridge, and I was like, your new job has Jenny's ice cream? My team knows I'm a Jenny's fanatic. I wish they would just like pay me to eat their ice cream. That's my dream job.
I love it.
Well, we are rounding it out. Jean Marie, thank you so much.